This baby wasn't a surprise, we'd been trying for years, and finally, it happened. After everything we went through with infertility, it felt like a miracle. But even through all those tough years, my husband never once agreed to get tested. He kept insisting we'd conceive eventually and avoided the idea of a semen analysis like it was some personal attack. Just the suggestion of it would send him spiraling into self-loathing and deep insecurity. Then, out of the blue, I got pregnant, completely naturally. You'd think we'd be overjoyed. This should have been one of the happiest moments in our lives. But instead, he's pulling away. He suddenly says he doesn't want to be a father. He's talking about divorce, telling me I should start over with someone else. He's already found a new apartment and started moving out. He won't speak to me. He's completely shut down, ignoring all my questions. I'm left here feeling devastated and totally lost. I know people are probably thinking he never really wanted kids to begin with. And yeah, it sure feels like that now. But when we were struggling to conceive, he wanted it badly. The problem was never about not wanting a child, it was the idea that he might be the reason we couldn't. That fear ate him up inside. I love my husband, but I'm starting to think there's something seriously wrong with his mental health. He's not thinking rationally, and some of the things coming out of his mouth feel completely disconnected from reality. But he refuses to get help. He's incredibly stubborn. You'd think he'd know better, he's a doctor, after all, but no. He even admits he knows something's not right in his head, but says he doesn't care. He just wants to vanish. I want this baby more than anything. We're both in our 30s, and I've wanted to be a mom for so long. I'm terrified that all this emotional stress might cause me to lose the pregnancy. Maybe that's what he wants, maybe he thinks it would be easier if it just went away. I don't know. None of this makes sense. How do you help someone who doesn't want to be helped? How am I supposed to do this alone? Financially, I'm dependent on him by design. That's how we planned our life together. Edit, after talking things over in the comments, it's becoming clearer to me just how unwell my husband really is. I didn't share everything about his past behavior at first because I was trying to stay focused on the current situation. But now I realize this isn't the first time he's had an episode like this. I can't believe I didn't see it sooner. I've brought up therapy before, but he had terrible experiences in the past and completely shut down the idea of ever going again. Update 1, the responses to my last post were incredibly eye-opening. A lot of you helped me see things I had been blind to. Some people labeled his behavior as abusive, but I don't believe that's the case. What I see now is a man who is deeply, severely mentally ill. A few days after that post, he told me he wanted to die. He was clear that he didn't have a plan to take his life, just that the desire was overwhelming. The next day, I reported his behavior to his workplace. I really wish I had done it anonymously, they didn't take me seriously. It felt like they thought I was just a bitter wife out for revenge. I have no idea what they did with the report, but I know I did what I had to do. Since then, his behavior has only become more unstable. And I have to agree, he shouldn't be treating patients in this mental state. Some people suggested he never truly wanted a child, but I know that's not true. Most of the time, he's been an incredibly kind, supportive partner, and he's talked so lovingly about having a family. That's the man I married, the man who's slipping further away from me now. This version of him? I don't even recognize him. Nothing much has changed. He's still living in the house, though he sleeps on the couch. Honestly, I don't think he sleeps much at all. I hear him pacing or watching TV late into the night. One night, he crawled into bed with me and just held me. No words. Just warmth. The next morning, it was like it never happened. He still insists on getting a divorce but says we can do it without lawyers and without telling anyone. He even offered to make a dating profile for me and help me find someone else. I told him absolutely not. But no matter what I say, he won't listen. When I tell him I still want to be with him, he brushes it off like I'm the one who's confused. He refuses medication, refuses therapy. Says he doesn't want to feel better, doesn't care that he's depressed or irrational. He just doesn't want help. I'm still pregnant. He still wants no part of it. I'm doing everything I can to hold it together, but I'm terrified this stress is going to make me lose the baby. I'm 5 weeks and 2 days alone. And I'm dreading the day I find out that I've lost everything, my husband and this child. Edit, I'm getting overwhelmed by people in the comments accusing me of not doing enough, specifically, not getting my husband committed to a psychiatric facility. Let me make this perfectly clear, I have no legal authority to have him hospitalized against his will. I've spoken with both a police officer and someone from the suicide prevention hotline. The law is very specific, unless he's an immediate threat to himself or others, nothing can be done. He told me he wants to die, but he hasn't said he plans to act on it. That's not enough for involuntary commitment. And no, I will not lie. Even if I did, they would still speak to him and evaluate his state directly. If they don't see him as a danger, their hands are tied. So please, if your only contribution is to scold me for not doing more, don't. I'm already carrying more than I can handle. And no, wives don't get special authority to lock up their husbands, no matter how broken they are. Update 2. So, I checked back in. A couple of weeks ago, I shared how my husband went completely silent after we found out I was pregnant. This wasn't an accident, we planned for this baby. We wanted this. But that positive test? It sent him straight into a mental and emotional tailspin. I wish I could come here with some good news, but unfortunately, there's not much to report, at least not in a hopeful direction. We're still living in the same house, just not really together. He's moved himself into what used to be his office. That's his bedroom now. Most days, he barely speaks to me. Every now and then, there's this flicker, he'll seem like himself, smile a little, maybe even sound excited about the baby. But it never lasts. The moment I try to gently bring up getting help or talk about what's really going on, he shuts down again and slips right back into his delusional headspace. He's told me more than once that he wants me to move out. That I should go on dates, find someone else to step in as the baby's father. At one point, he even brought up the idea of abortion. And he still regularly tells me he thinks about dying. Like, every day. I've already contacted the suicide hotline twice, hoping they'd have some kind of solution, some path to help. But no. They told me exactly what the police and hospital staff have said before. Unless he has an actual plan to hurt himself, there's nothing anyone can do to force treatment or hold him involuntarily. And he knows this. He's careful with his words. What's so painful is that I've seen glimpses of who he used to be, those brief flashes of clarity where I recognize the man I married. He's still in there somewhere. But he flat out refuses to get help. He tells me he'd rather die than speak to a therapist. He believes he doesn't deserve to feel better. He says he just wants to disappear quietly. I've tried reaching out to his mom, but she hasn't been much help. I think she believes I'm being dramatic. For the record, I've already reported all this to his employer and even the medical board. Nothing came of it. Nobody seems to see the problem. Honestly, I'm starting to question myself, like maybe I'm the one losing it. I've looked into other living arrangements, but the reality is, I don't really have anywhere else to go. And if I move out, I risk losing the house in a divorce later on. So I'm stuck here for now. I had my first prenatal appointment, and everything looks fine so far. But it's early. And with the constant stress, I'm terrified I'll lose the baby. I'm trying to prepare myself emotionally, but it's a nightmare I don't want to live through. Update 3. A lot has happened since then, but weirdly, I still feel stuck in the exact same spot. Despite everything, I was never able to get him committed for a mental health evaluation. The system just wouldn't allow it. But eventually, he hit rock bottom and admitted he needed help. That was shortly after my last update. Since then, he's started medication, he's been on it for 2 months now. We also found a therapist he actually likes. That felt like a huge win. The problem? His work schedule makes regular therapy nearly impossible. He's only been able to see the therapist twice so far. I was so proud of him when he made those first moves toward healing. He really tried. But sadly, not much has improved. If anything, he brings up suicide more now than he did before. His psychiatrist took him off the initial medication, and now he's trying a different one. I understand that finding the right meds and dosage takes time, it's trial and error. But I'm exhausted. And not from the pregnancy, I'm tired because I've turned into his caretaker and emotional punching bag. Not physically, he's never laid a hand on me or called me names, but he says things to hurt me when he's spiraling. He'll tell me I never loved him, that I only wanted a baby and used him to get it. He begs me to leave him and find someone else to be the dad. And I'm just worn out. I know it sounds selfish, but I don't know how much more I can take. He still talks about ending his life. He hasn't stopped once. I feel it in my bones, this stress is affecting the baby. And it breaks me to admit that. I wanted to give this child a peaceful, joyful beginning. Instead, I'm in constant survival mode. It's fight or flight every single day. So I've started planning, just in case. I told him plainly, if he's not significantly better by the time the baby arrives, I'll go stay with my family and give birth there. I've already spoken to a lawyer. They've got all my information, and I'm ready to move forward if it comes to that. I feel terrible even saying that, because technically, he is trying. He's doing the things you're supposed to do: medication, a therapist, acknowledging there's a problem. But I have to think about what's best for me and the baby. And going to another state, getting a job, and having the baby there might also protect me legally if custody ever becomes a battle. I don't want it to come to that, but I can't afford to pretend anymore that everything is going to magically fix itself. Update 4. If you've been following my journey or feel like diving into my post history, you'll know that everything started unraveling when I got pregnant. Up until then, I thought I was in a happy, stable marriage. This baby was planned, wanted, and deeply hoped for. But the moment those two pink lines showed up, it was like my husband became a completely different person. He spiraled fast and hard into a dark mental place, and I've spent the last 8 months pouring every ounce of energy into trying to help him get better. He's been seeing a psychiatrist off and on, and he's on antidepressants. As far as I know, he's taking them consistently. But still, he talks about wanting to die. He insists I should leave because he believes he'll be a terrible father. Physically, he's never hurt me aside from one time when he blocked me in a room and screamed in my face, refusing to let me leave. I have no proof of that incident, but I've saved dozens of texts that show clear emotional abuse and signs of serious mental instability. As much as I wish things could be different, I'm starting to accept the reality. Unless there's some legal route to force him into treatment, which I haven't found, nothing is going to change. He refuses to go to therapy and openly says he doesn't want to get better. So I'm left with what feels like the only real option, separating for the sake of our child. I need to raise this baby in a safe, stable home. And right now, that's just not possible if he's in the picture. He's told me that if I leave, he'll still provide for the baby financially. But I'm scared that when he realizes how much child support and possibly alimony he'd be expected to pay, he'll go after 50-50 custody just to avoid paying it. And if he gets joint custody, then what's the point of leaving? In my state, 50-50 custody is the default. And I've read far too many heartbreaking stories about women who were forced to co-parent with abusive or mentally unstable exes, sometimes even when there were DV convictions. That terrifies me. My husband has a great job, he's a pediatrician, and people in the community think the world of him. Honestly, I used to be one of them. But he's not the same man I married. And I'm starting to fear how that charm and reputation might work against me in court. What would you recommend for someone in my position? I don't have any close friends or family nearby. I'd rather not move out right now. I'm 8 months pregnant, I have pets, and the nursery is all set up. I think there's a chance I can get him to leave instead, but after that, I'm unsure what the next step should be. Update 5, July 13, 2025. It's been a full year since I first posted about my husband, who became suicidal when we finally got pregnant. I started this account over 2 years ago to share our infertility journey. After 2 years of trying, we finally conceived. But the moment I got pregnant, he fell into what I can only describe as a psychological breakdown. You can read through my post history for all the details, it's a lot. Fast forward to now, several months have passed since I gave birth. I've been doing a lot of reflecting. Toward the end of my pregnancy, I was preparing to leave him. I was even trying to figure out how to move to another state to give birth away from him. But that plan fell through when I went into labor almost a month early. And then, it's like he flipped a switch. Once the baby arrived, he completely changed. Almost overnight, he went from being unstable and suicidal to calm, present, and even happy. He hasn't had a single mental health episode since the birth. He's been an amazing dad, attentive, loving, involved. From the outside, it looks like everything worked out. But this isn't a happy update. Because even though I finally understand what unconditional love feels like, thanks to my child, I can also see, clearly, that my husband never deserved mine. He's doing great now. He's the man I thought I married. And that should be enough. That's all I ever wanted. But it's not. The truth is, I can't get past what he put me through. I carry so much anger and resentment, and it's only grown with time. He put me through emotional hell during my pregnancy. That was abuse. Plain and simple. And now he gets the reward. He gets to be the doting father of a perfect, healthy baby. Meanwhile, I'm supposed to smile, play the role of perfect wife and mother, and pretend none of it ever happened. But it did happen. And it wasn't some hormonal dream or pregnancy hallucination, it was real. It still is. He knows I haven't forgiven him. I've told him I'm angry. He believes I'll move past it in time. But I'm starting to believe the opposite. The longer we go on like this, the more I feel the weight of everything he did. And no, he still refuses therapy. Including couples therapy. So there's no clear path forward. No resolution. I feel completely stuck. And yeah, I know, I should have left sooner. I stayed too long. I can't change that now. I have to live with the choices I made. I've been going to therapy myself, and my therapist keeps encouraging us to do couples counseling. But he won't go. So that door stays closed. Here's what I keep coming back to. I have 2 options. Option 1, divorce him. And I'll be honest, most days, that's exactly what I want. But if I do that, he'll automatically get 50-50 custody. That's how it works in my state, no matter what happened during the pregnancy. Unless he directly harmed our child, the courts won't see any of this as reason to restrict his custody rights. And that makes me physically sick to think about. Option 2: stay. Stay, and try to force myself to let go of the anger, the resentment, the trauma. Try to make this work for the sake of our son. But I honestly don't know how to do that. How do you forgive a man who doesn't think he's done anything wrong? So that's where I'm at. I feel like I'm walking a tightrope with no end in sight. And I could really use some honest, outside perspectives. Thanks in advance to anyone who takes the time to help me figure this out.